One of the best things about stories are the many characters you get introduced to in them. They are one of the most vital things in a story, and many of them can leave an impact on you, whether it be the protagonist or even the antagonist. For many of them, you learn a lot about them and their history, things they are motivated by, their goals, and Yakuza is no different. With many different entries into the series at this point, we've met different characters that made us think on a deeper level at times, but some of them are a bit more mysterious. You have met them countless times, but you just don't know who they really are. Of the many people that fit this category, one of them is this individual. And there's a question myself and others have asked themselves. Who is he, and why is he so aggressive with anyone he encounters? Let's see if we can answer these questions. This is Hangman, and there isn't much I can say from the start since there isn't that much known about him, only having a few details we can actually look at. He was someone I mentioned in a previous video, that being Creepy Things in Yakuza, which I did about a year ago from now. And there are several features about him that make him very mysterious and creepy. In Yakuza 6, you head into Shangri-La with Someya, as Big Lo was planning to meet you there. After beating down several groups of enemies, you go down this area that's in the walls of the building, where many of the pipes for the building's water supply are present. It's Someya who sees him first, and he makes a comment about him before Kiryu is actually grabbed by this thing. You press on some more before needing to get across using this metal beam, while Hangman begins to throw large rocks at you. Although you get across safely, Someya cannot, and he gets grabbed before a battle ensues with this beast. You can get a better look at his appearance here. He dons a gimp suit, something that I mentioned before, which is similar to those who partake in BDSM with all the leather gear and even a ball gag in his mouth that is creepily designed to look like an eyeball, making him look a little less human, and more like a creature from Resident Evil. Speaking of which, the sounds that he makes are actually the same as those from those damn regenerators in Resident Evil 4. His moveset is also very primitive and animalistic, just adding to his strange behavior. While Kiryu and Someya show no fear as they defeat him pretty quickly, it still continues to hunt you down, even crawling on the walls and appearing from the ceiling just to get the jump on you, which is something we've never seen any other character do unless they have some special gear of some sort. Eventually you defeat him for the last time, but he makes no further appearances in the game's story. No mention of who he is or even what he is. He's just gone. This isn't his only appearance though. Moving on to the spin-off game Judgment, you head into the old abandoned love hotel with Sugiura, where you go to investigate a laboratory that's hidden in the building, where many of the experiments for 89 were done on people. During your investigation, Sugiura is kidnapped and notice how he's pulled from the ceiling. There's only one other person who stalks his prey in a similar fashion. At some point, you will come face to face with Hangman himself. You see him in different parts of the building, even electrocuting him with a little puddle under him. And you can't step too close to him, otherwise he'll grab you by the neck trying to choke you out, kinda similar to how he did with Kiryu. Despite all of this, he still comes after you, later needing to battle him just like in Yakuza 6. Thankfully for the two of you, you only have to battle him once, but he does wield this hammer to use against you two. We are once again never told anything about him, as just like before, no character makes a comment on who he is. He makes another appearance in Gaiden, but not in the actual story. Instead, he will appear in the game's arena, where you can fight him. His final appearance as of now is in the latest game Infinite Wealth, where you can meet him as one of the potential people in the minigame Mismatch, where Ichiban is just as grossed out and confused at the sight before his eyes. I'm not sure if he'll make any further appearances in the games, but I guess we'll see with the upcoming release of Pirate Yakuza, or any further releases. With all of these appearances, you would think even the smallest bit of lore would be presented, maybe in a sub-story or something. but nothing has been officially stated or explained. Now, while we don't know much about Hangman, we do have some other characters that could help point in the direction of who he is. There are many different characters in the games that you can encounter that resemble the Madman, both ally and enemy. In Yakuza Kiwami 2, you can battle several opponents in the Colosseum, and one of them you meet is a fighter called Redman, who is just like Hangman, but red. Now, one thing that is pretty interesting is that despite him fighting identically to Hangman, which is very rough and sluggish, he is actually capable of speaking rather than just making those weird regenerator sounds and grunts. You can hear him talk in battle as well as after, where you can recruit him to your team for clan creator. He asks to be Kiryu's friend in a very shy manner. Redman also makes another appearance as an employee you can hire for Ichiban Holdings in Yakuza Like a Dragon. His description reads as follows: a peculiar man who hides behind a mask. He is so shrouded in mystery, companies often think twice about hiring him. Given this strange description, it's possible that Redman may have been mistaken for Hangman. Given how different companies may have heard information on how Hangman became a lot more violent, they may have assumed that Redman may also be similar in behavior, or that Redman may have been the person that was committing these violent acts against people. As mentioned before, Hangman appears as one of the fighters in the Colosseum, but he isn't the only one. A fighter that can be recruited is the defense-based fighter, Super Guard Machine. He is the first and only character that isn't named with any word following the word man. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that strong of a moveset, only using the shield, which kinda sucks, but he instead has more potential for the defense of your team. Other than being a recruitable ally, there's not much known about him as a character, only that he resembles and dons the same outfit as the previously mentioned characters, just in yellow. The final set of Hangman clones are actually in a pair, and appear in Infinite Wealth during the District 5 long battle prior to fighting Dwight. These two are both called Hitman, and are the only two of their group that have been given a real name, that being Gordon and Hall. And similar to the previous three, specifically Hangman and Redman, these two fight using unique wrestling moves. Given that these guys are all fighters, even having classes of sorts, it makes you wonder if all of these guys were affiliated with each other at one point, specifically as a team of wrestlers, but some unfortunate events occurred, seeing as how they are all mostly separated now, and almost all of them aren't around each other anymore. Maybe something happened with the group that made these two move to America, and maybe Dwight decided to take them under their wing, seeing as how the Barracudas were all formed by different groups of people who were going through difficult times. Now, since we can only speculate on who these characters are, I made up a couple of hypotheses that may help us understand who they are a little bit better. We know that from Judgment, one of the first people that was used for testing 89, the miracle drug that was currently in development to cure Alzheimer's, was Waku in the year 2015. This unfortunately led to his death when Shono injected him with the medication. However, the cost of time and research that was put into this project was just far too important for him, which led to him disposing the body in a linen truck where Okubo would unfortunately take the blame, kicking the story into motion. We also learned that many other people were tested on, including Yakuza, members of the ADDC, and other civilians. So anyone could be a worthy test subject, so long as they could get their hands on them without drawing any suspicion. Another thing that we learned from Somia is that Shangri-La is a lawless zone, so much so that even innocent women are being hurt there. But this just isn't enough for the police to actually take action, as they'd rather focus their attention on other crimes. This leaves a lot of room for pretty much all of the people in there to be taken and tested on, and possibly even dumped there after they're done with them. So here's a possible theory for this scenario. Hangman was a frequent visitor of soaplands and love hotels, and he had went to Shangri-La not knowing that it was abandoned, or maybe he did know and likely participated in some of the more violent sexual acts there. Seeing as how he was wearing a gimp suit, he was already familiar with stuff like this. Kuroiwa and Shono took advantage of the fact that Shangri-La was a lawless zone, so with there not being any police supervision, they would take people from here to be tested on for 89, and they would be left back there as many people would think they were just some crazy drug addict, as this seems to be something common in this area, given how some of the people in Shangri-La look very inebriated and are violent towards those they see. Hangman just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and maybe was taken in for testing. After the experiment failed, they dumped him back there at Shangri-La where they took him, where he remained over the course of a few years. Now you may be asking yourself, but 89 has toxins in it. All the people that have been injected with it die immediately after they receive the medication. So why wouldn't have Hangman died? While this would be a likely scenario, 89 was an ongoing project that was still in development. One thing that Shono said is that the experiment was successful on animals such as mice, but sadly was not successful on humans, as Waku was one of the first test subjects, and was killed when it was injected into his body. Now, while for most of the game they explicitly talk about those who were killed, there may have been a version produced that only exacerbated the process of Alzheimer's instead of killing that person, which is what Hangman may be suffering from. You see, people with Alzheimer's or any form of dementia don't just have problems remembering recent events or loved ones. They may also become aggressive and have trouble forming words and sometimes wander around, even feeling lost at times. They may also remember things that they had done in their earlier life, that they may have done routinely, and still retain the ability to learn new things, despite their illness. Hangman fits all of these categories perfectly. He can be aggressive towards the others, as we've seen how he is with Yagami and Kiryu. He ends up in different places that he's familiar with and even sometimes loses himself in places, like how he's in Guidance Coliseum and even in Hawaii. He has trouble forming words, seeing as how he only makes weird grunts. While this could be from the ball gag that's in his mouth, Redman seems to talk just fine with his in his mouth, so it's not impossible. He also seems to show his ability to still learn when he catfishes Ichiban using the dating app, to do the one thing he loves most and the only thing that calms his aggression down, which I won't go too into. Before any of this, he seemed to be part of a wrestling team as well. This would explain his intense strength that he has when fighting Kiryu in Yakuza 6, and why there are others that dress identically to him. This is also supported by the fact that Redman's fighting style is based on a form of wrestling, and even Redman himself doesn't seem to show any signs of strange behavior. So much so he even communicates with Kiryu just fine and even befriends him. So they seem to have been perfectly functional people, they just dress very maturely and look intimidating. And they had the team together at the time, seeing as this takes place years and years before the experiments of 89 were even done. But sadly, years later, Hangman is tested on, and possibly the others as well, as they also show signs of difficulty speaking, which again could just be the ball gag in their mouth, but it doesn't necessarily put it out of the question. That may be the reason why people are wary of even someone like Redman. Even though he was probably the least affected of all those in the group, he is suffering the consequences of the others' actions, or maybe even him himself was aggressive at one point like Hangman. So to end off and summarize this theory, Hangman may be suffering from some form of dementia, due to being injected with a version of 89 that only worsened Alzheimer's rather than slowing it down or stopping it completely. This version also didn't seem to kill him immediately, and he shows familiar signs of those who actually suffer from it, including aggressiveness, inability to speak, wandering around, and getting lost. This is speculated as he seemed to be around or in abandoned places, intentionally or not, that he was familiar with, like soaplands and love hotels, where it would make him an easy target to take for testing as there's no police supervision there. Before this, he was on a team of amateur wrestlers, but the team split up sometime after he and possibly the others were tested on. And the reason for their unknown background was due to them being small-time wrestlers that haven't made a name for themselves yet, further explaining their mysterious background. And this would also make it easier for Shono and Kuroiwa to take them without getting caught. So in the end, Redman went out to find other job opportunities, Super Guard Machine stayed as a fighter, now fighting in Guidance Coliseum, the two hitmen were taken under Dwight's wing, and Hangman is left wandering the world, not remembering much of his life as a team member on a wrestling team, and now does the only other thing he finds comfort in, being sexually active. It really is kind of dark and sad. Now let's be honest, this theory is very, very over the top and a bit weird, but with how everything falls smoothly into the timeline in a way, the thought that Shangri-La and even the Love Hotel could be used by those who were taking people in for testing in secret just kind of makes sense to me in a way. Also, from personal experience, people with these symptoms mirror some of the habits that Hangman shows, primarily irritability. There's another theory that's a lot more simpler and probably makes a lot more sense than the one I just mentioned, and that's that Hangman may just be some sort of drug user. There are many psychological effects that may lead one into violence against another person. This is especially present in those who are addicted. People can become very aggressive and may also have trouble talking. As stated before, many of the people in Shangri-La show signs of drug use, with how lazy they move and even fight. This could also be from alcohol abuse as well though. But regardless, many of the people there seem to be intoxicated in some way, shape, or form. Keeping drugs in there to be hidden from the police would make the most sense, and different people there may have gotten their hands on them. Hangman was probably there to do what he likes most, and he was possibly offered some. Curiosity got the better of him, and he took some, which led him down the path of addiction, where he would soon leave his group of wrestlers and they would all go their separate ways after Hangman's departure led the group to splitting up. He may have even offered some to his teammates, since they also show signs of not being able to speak, as slurred speech is another commonality amongst drug users. And again, it could just be the result of the ball gag that's in their mouth, but it doesn't draw it out of the question. This by itself is already much of a simpler explanation than 89, so this is the more likely theory. The only thing that can be explained by any of these two theories, though, is his ability to hang from ceilings. There aren't any things I can think of that support this. He doesn't seem to wear any special gear besides the latex gimp suit he has, so he may just possess some sort of unique ability that allows him to adhere to the walls and ceilings of buildings, similar to that of bugs, which is honestly really, really creepy. Again, there is no official lore behind these characters, only being given small bits of obscure information about them, so all of what I said is just pure speculation and shouldn't be taken as fact. But until we are given an actual story for these characters, this view I have of these characters makes the most sense to me, and are one of the unfortunate paths that these characters took down in the story. But you guys can believe whatever you want to. Maybe you guys have your own theories about this character and might even make more sense than mine. While Yakuza has many different mysteries hidden within the game, Hangman will always be one of the most mysterious in the world of Yakuza. And that's the first case closed in this series of Yakuza mysteries. What did you guys think? This was something I thought would be fun to do, a way to kind of expand on my previous Halloween themed video. I was thinking doing one of these every Halloween or so would be fun and interesting, to look at the things that we still don't fully understand in this very realistic world that these characters live in, uncovering more secrets that Kamurocho and the other cities hide, because in a world where things like Kappa and aliens actually exist, who knows what else could be lurking in the shadows in the streets of Kamurocho. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Have a safe Halloween if you guys celebrate. You guys take care, and I'll see you guys later.